Hello, and thank you for your interest in our cardiovascular research training program at the University of New Mexico Health Sciences Center. My name is Tom Resta. I'm a professor in the Department of Cell Biology and Physiology, Senior Associate Dean for Research Education at the School of Medicine, and Director of this training program. This photograph shows the Rio Grande River and the surrounding Rio Grande Bosque, which is the largest cottonwood forest in North America, and in the background we have our Sandia Mountains, which stand a little over 10,000 feet and provide a beautiful backdrop for Albuquerque. This is actually a state park that runs right through the heart of our city. So why study cardiovascular research? Well, we know this is a critically important area because cardiovascular disease is a leading cause of death in the United States. In addition, lower respiratory diseases in recent years have been the third leading cause of death behind cancer. And these diseases result in pulmonary vascular dysfunction and result in pulmonary hypertension. And in fact, pulmonary hypertension is a major area of strength of our researchers here at the Health Sciences Center. Our cardiovascular research training program is a long-standing program here at UNM. It's been funded by a T32 grant from the National Institutes of Health since 1993. It includes 25 faculty mentors with interests in cardiovascular disease from a variety of basic science and clinical departments. Currently, it funds 6 predoctoral trainees as well as 2 postdoctoral trainees. This program has been very successful and has produced many highly successful scientists. The figure on the left depicts the current employment of trainees since the inception of this program. The large majority are in academic positions, although we have a number in government research positions, primarily in the armed forces, and also with the biotech industry. And nearly all are in research-intensive positions. On the right, we have some examples of our former predoctoral trainees. Dr. Chris Marjan left to do a postdoc at Stanford University and is currently a senior scientist in the biotech industry with 47 Incorporated. Dr. Scott Early left to do a postdoc at one of the premier vascular smooth muscle electrophysiology labs in the world. He is now a professor at the University of Nevada and has been highly successful and currently holds 3 R01 grants and is a PI of an NIH COBRE application. Dr. Jessica Snow is a professor at New Mexico Highlands University in Las Vegas, New Mexico. And although this is primarily a teaching institution, she's been highly successful with her research as well and currently holds grants from both the NIH and the American Heart Association. And then finally, we have Dr. Melissa Riddle. She left to do a postdoc with the U.S. Army, is now an officer with the Department of Defense and chief of a clinical reference laboratory. The training program affords a number of benefits for our trainees. These include an NIH-level stipend, covers tuition, travel, so our trainees can attend scientific conferences to present their research, and training-related expenses that are fairly flexible. For example, they can cover health insurance, lab supplies, computers and computer supplies, and other items. Support from this program can extend throughout your training as per NIH guidelines. So that is up to 5 years for graduate students and up to 3 years for postdoctoral fellows, although many of our trainees receive alternate fellowships during the course of their training. The major requirements to be in a position on this grant are that you are a U.S. citizen or permanent resident, that you work with one of our designated mentors on the T32 grant in the area of cardiovascular disease, that you enroll each semester in our Cardiovascular Journal Club seminar series, and finally, that you submit a pre- or postdoctoral fellowship application, which is important because it provides critical training in grant writing skills. One of the important strengths of our research programs is that they provide an integrative approach to understanding mechanisms of cardiovascular disease. So for example, findings from the whole organism can often be studied at the cellular or molecular level to determine their mechanistic basis. Conversely, phenomena identified from cell and molecular studies can many times be taken back to the whole animal to determine their physiological significance. Our various research laboratories use a variety of technical approaches to address these mechanisms of disease, including in vivo studies in rodents, along with isolated organ or blood vessel preparations. Because of the importance of calcium signaling in cells of the vascular wall and in cardiac myocytes, We have calcium imaging capabilities that allow detection of global or localized calcium events in single cells or in the intact artery. We also have state-of-the-art microscopy facilities for high spatial as well as high temporal resolution confocal microscopy. And finally, we combine contemporary molecular biological approaches with translational, clinical, and population studies to address both the etiology and impact of cardiovascular disease. This diagram illustrates the organizational structure of our training program. Mentors in this program are organized into 4 research interest groups, namely vascular biology, cardiovascular toxicology, cell signaling, and clinical and translational research. However, it is important to keep in mind that there is significant overlap between these groups, and abundant collaboration exists between laboratories. In the next several slides, I will briefly introduce you to the various research areas available in Mentors laboratories within each of these interest groups. The Vascular Biology group is represented by faculty members from the Department of Cell Biology and Physiology. A common research theme among these investigators is a study of effects of hypoxia on vascular function, given the importance of hypoxia in the pathogenesis of many forms of cardiovascular disease. These include pulmonary hypertension, systemic hypertension, and cancer. Other novel hypotheses being tested include molecular mechanisms of cardiovascular dysfunction associated with hyperlipidemia, acute and chronic kidney disease, and abnormal vascular development in the brain during prenatal alcohol exposure. The Cardiovascular Toxicology group includes members from the College of Pharmacy, the College of Nursing, and the Department of Internal Medicine. Research areas include inhalational toxicology, neurovascular and hematopoietic disorders associated with heavy metal exposure, as well as research in renal injury, hypertension, heart failure, and uranium exposure as a novel risk factor for coronary artery disease. Members of the cell signaling group come from the departments of pathology, internal medicine, molecular genetics and microbiology, pediatrics, biochemistry and molecular biology, neurosciences, and neurology. These investigators study diverse mechanisms of cardiovascular disease, including hematopoietic stem cell signaling and tissue repair, the role of the novel G-protein coupled estrogen receptor in cardiovascular and metabolic disease, normal and leukemic T-cell migration and signaling and immune responses and metastasis, the biology and treatment of pediatric acute lymphoblastic leukemia, adipose immune responses and adipocyte physiology, including therapeutic targets for obesity and cardiovascular disease, and finally, basic and translational research of cerebral ischemia and stroke. Lastly, the clinical and translational research group includes members from the College of Population Health, the College of Pharmacy, and the departments of neurosurgery, neurology, and pathology. These individuals focus on race as a risk factor for peripheral artery disease, diabetes, and obesity, stem cell biology and heart disease, translational applications in traumatic brain injury and stroke, the relationship between sleep apnea, cardiovascular disease, and chronic kidney disease, and finally, leukocyte biology, signal transduction, and high throughput flow cytometry for drug discovery and repurposing. Although not required for graduate trainees in the CRTP, available to them is a program of coursework that provides a concentration in cardiovascular physiology. This coursework is designed to ensure broad training in physiology with a primary focus in vascular biology, hypoxia, hypertension, sleep apnea, pulmonary hypertension, heart disease, chronic kidney disease, and stroke. This is a transcripted curriculum that is designated on students' diplomas at the time of graduation. In closing, I'd like to thank you for your interest in our cardiovascular research training program. If you have any questions or require more information, please don't hesitate to reach out to me by email. I'd be happy to talk with you and look forward to potentially meeting you in the near future.